Greetings, NFL fans. Today is Tuesday, February 6th. This is the Shutdown Corner Podcast. I am Kevin Kaduk, here with Frank Schwab and Jay Busbee. For the first time in a long time, we are not headed into a game, and we're not headed coming off of a big game. This feels weird.
It's a little sad, isn't it? 7 months. I think it's almost a little more than 7 months. The first game is September 10th, I believe. Yeah. So we have a long way till we get football back in our
We need
life.
to just start playing some Madden and assessing our games. You know, just replay a 1978 game on Madden.
I actually played Madden for the first time in a while against my brother-in-law last Saturday, and he had like Madden 09, so I was sitting there playing with the Bears, and he was the Dolphins, and we were trying to figure out like who was on each team, and it was just bad news. Yeah,
that's got to be. I mean, that's got to be. Yeah, if I played I have literally every Madden. Well, not literally, but I have probably how many are we up to? 25, or I probably have 21. So I would want put in Madden 99 and see all the names from the past. That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah, 99 was a good game. 98 was a great game. I liked the Panthers back then. I'd go with Biaka Batuka every day. I'm the only person who likes to run on those games, I think.
I like to be balanced. I'm a balanced player. But you get online. I don't play a ton, but I do sometimes. You get online. And there are these guys, I mean, they're literally unbeatable. I remember playing some dude with the Saints. He had the Saints, and he would spread it out with he had Reggie Bush, so that's a couple years ago. Reggie Bush in the backfield, and he would go 4 receivers. And if I didn't clog the middle, he would run. And if I didn't, spread it all out, you know what I mean? If he would just, whatever, he had 2 plays. He ran the whole game. And I literally never stopped him. I don't even think I got him to 4th down at any point. And then he's trash talking me at the end. And it's man, I'm old. I'm so much better at this game 10 years ago.
My son plays the snowboarding game, and and he could just dust me on the Xbox. So after he's gotten done with that for a while, I pop in Madden and just destroy him. I mean, just run up the score.
Give him his comeuppance.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, you should have covered that guy. Oh, Leah left a hole wide open there. Yeah. So I'm paying future therapy bills right now.
I downloaded this one game for the iPhone iPad app because now I'm more likely to pull out my phone or tablet and play a game on there, which I think is video game companies are scared of. But there's kind of a Tecmo Bowl type game, and it was kind of fun. Let me see what it's called because I would recommend it to people. I have no stake in this. I didn't make the app.
It's called Kevin Kaduk's 10-yard fight.
It's called NFL. It's called NFLPA Football Heroes, so it's licensed by the NFLPA.
So it's got the players but no helmets, and you're just kind of staring at the camera.
And it's the Chicago Grizzlies, and all the teams are kind of so you could have J.J. Watt and Russell Wilson on the same team. It was sort of fun, and the gameplay was kind of good. So check that out. And also, I had not played it to this point, but the NBA Jam app is actually really fun.
Yes.
It hasn't been updated since 2011.
By the way, what's Jay and I are probably going to say the same things. I already know his answer. But what is the greatest sports video game of all time, Kevin? What's your vote for this?
I felt like this could be a great debate that Jay and I could have at some point.
Yeah.
My greatest, I think it has to be Tecmo Super Bowl. As much as I love RBI.
Without a doubt.
I mean, 100%. That is. I feel for anybody under the age of 35 who didn't understand what Tecmo Super Bowl did for the world. That was the most game-changing game ever. It kept stats. It had all the teams. It had the real schedule.
I think the stats is what puts it over.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. No doubt.
Well, the fact that the players all play differently, based on their own own individual skills. So you can go with obviously Bo Jackson, or you can go with Christian Okoye, or you can go with the Buffalo Bills, and you can run the table on somebody who doesn't know any better.
It is the only universe where Jerry Ball could run down Jerry Rice from 70 yards.
But kids today, get off my lawn. If you're 25, you look at that game, you could look at it on YouTube or something and see the Bo Jackson stuff or whatever, and you probably think this is so lame. Madden is so realistic, and it is. It's great. I love Madden. But people just have no concept what that was like in 1991. None. That was the game.
I think when we're talking about great video games, though, and I love that we're already talking about video games because we had a plan for this podcast, and we'll get to it, we promise. But people are probably already loving this discussion. You talk about a Mount Rushmore, and here would be my Mount Rushmore of video games. Tecmo Super Bowl.
Just sports video games or anything?
Sports video games.
Okay, go for it.
Tecmo Super Bowl.
Yes.
RBI Baseball.
Solid.
Probably
NHL 94.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And NBA Jam.
That's tough to argue with.
I mean, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out's probably on the list there.
Yeah,
I'd just look at that video of the guy like blindfolded beating Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and I was transfixed by that.
I'd make
that might be
room
my
for Blades
favorite
of
video
Steel.
game ever. For some reason, I don't consider Mike Tyson's Punch-Out to be like a sports video game, and I know it is. But like when you say sports video game, that doesn't immediately pop into my mind. But when you talk about just a great video game in terms of storyline, gameplay, characters, like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out might be at the top of the list.
It's great. It is fantastic. I remember the first time I beat Mike Tyson, I was going crazy in my house.
Soda Puppets.
One of the other games I'd put up there would be the first Tiger Woods game that had Augusta. I still play that like when I just had like time to kill. I've mastered it. I've mastered whatever challenges they have, so I can play Masters anytime I want, like Augusta.
So that when the call comes for you, you're going to be ready.
Years, by the way, and I have a child and a wife. Like I've done this, but I could play Masters, and I thought that game was mind-blowing because I waited so long to like play a video game that had Augusta. I'm not even a golf guy, but I love that game. I'd put that up there with anything because you got golf games are phenomenal on video games too.
My favorite golf game was PGA Tour 2 for Sega Genesis, and that was kind of like the first really great golf game for
Augusta dropped that on everybody. It was unbelievable. It was a secret right before the game came out. They said, "Oh yeah, by the way, we've got Augusta this year," and it just blew everybody's mind because everyone's thinking, "There's no way they'll do Augusta."
And I'm not even like I said, I'm not even a golf guy. Like I don't know anything about golf really. I do watch the Masters because I enjoy that event. But when I heard Augusta was going to be at Tiger Woods, I was like, I'm getting it. And I still play, even though that game's like 3 years old. That's the game I play all the time when I have some free time.
Yeah. So. Well, I think we should definitely all get together and play some of these games. And people are probably like our younger listeners are probably listening to us and have no idea what we're talking about, and probably they're like, "Oh man, NBA Street from 2004 was where it was at." And NBA Street
NBA Jam was unbelievable. I mean, that was the other game that as far as arcade goes, like people were lined up like 10 deep to play that game. Everybody played that game. I remember going on a field trip. We went on a field trip my junior year of high school to UCLA. It was like one of those like go to a couple college classes and report on it. I didn't go to any college classes. This is the truth. I didn't go to any college classes. I ended up like basketball Poly Pavilion for like 20 minutes before security kicked us out. And then I spent the rest of the day in their like union playing NBA Jam. And honestly, that probably was a preview of my college life better than any of those classes.
It was apparently a preview of the rest of your life because you're sitting here not talking to us two. So.
Yes, exactly. Like
we broke out the NBA Jam not too long ago, hooked it up, and the old Sega Genesis. My old record from 1993 was still in there. Played with Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant. Oh, it's great, man.
I played with Bill Clinton and George Clinton.
Yes.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk some football.
At some point, yeah.
Okay, so our podcast that we did on Tuesday, we went like 15 minutes before we mentioned the champion New England Patriots, just because there was so much Seattle stuff to talk about. Pete Carroll's decision, Russell Wilson, everything. And it almost seems like the Patriots have flown under the radar. I mean, for being champions, for winning their 4th title in 14 years. Maybe they prefer it that way, because if Pete Carroll doesn't make that call, maybe the entire country is still talking about those cheating Patriots, but it's kind of almost disappeared. The NFL is supposed to come out with the findings of their investigation at some point. I'm sure it'll be released we're taping this on Friday. I think it'll probably be released at like 10 o'clock tonight, so good luck with that, Frank. But anyhow, so we want to talk about the Patriots today. Talk about where they stand, where they're going. We didn't talk at all about Bill Belichick, which was crazy. So my question to lead off this podcast after all that video game talk, Frank, is: are the Patriots the greatest dynasty ever?
Can I say that me playing with the Buffalo Bills in Super Tecmo Bowl was the greatest dynasty ever? Is that I that was my full circle.
That was my okay.
And no, I don't. But it's the longest dynasty, so that gets it extra points. Unless you're talking about maybe the Niners, 81 to mid 90s. This is you won your first Super Bowl in 2001 season. You won your last, and who knows? We might not be done with the Patriots. By the way, I mean there's no reason to believe they can't win again. So from 01 to 14, that's an incredible run. I'd probably still take the Steelers, but you could make a definite argument for the Patriots just because it's been such And I know when we talk about Super Bowls, but their regular season greatness has been unbelievable. I mean, every single year they win 12 games. They're either in the AFC Championship or winning it. You can make an absolute argument they're the greatest dynasty ever. I'd still probably pick the Steelers just because that was such a great team, but it's so close.
So to get semantic, though, what constitutes a dynasty given the fact that Belichick and Brady are the only common threads here throughout the entire run?
Yeah, it's kind of a strange one, right? Because we only have Brady and Belichick. Right? I mean, that's the only ties to this. It'd be different if, like, the Steelers dynasty is Swan and Stallworth and Franco and Joe Green and Noel and Bradshaw. And, the list goes on and on and on. But literally the only two constants in this entire Patriots dynasty, let's count Robert Kraft, is Brady and Belichick. And I don't know how that changes things. How do you guys think that does that help the Patriots dynasty, or does it hurt it as far as like judging it versus the Steelers or the Packers or the Niners?
I don't think it hurts because you look at a team like the Chicago Bulls. They won 6 titles in the 90s, and the constants were Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and then you swap out like Bill Cartwright for Luke Longley, Horace Grant for Dennis Rodman, and on and on. So I think when you're talking about a dynasty, I think you do define it by, one, the stars up top, and just the organizational stability and strength that allows an extended run like that to happen. I don't think that any dynasty could happen if your team is the same in year 1 as it was in year 6 or year 10 or year 14. It's just not possible.
Obviously, the direct comparison is the San Antonio Spurs. They've got their big three, they've got their coach, and then everybody else rotates around. But it's the same sort of thing where a dynasty, they don't have to win every year, but they have to have that chance to win every year, that realistic opportunity to win.
Yeah, and that's I don't, it's not like the Steelers had any bad years in the 70s when they weren't winning Super Bowls, but just every year winning the division, every year winning 12 games, 14 games, 16 games one year. That really is impressive. It's so tough to do that in the NFL. And again, we also are talking about the salary cap. And the Steelers had all these Hall of Famers, however many dozen Hall of Famers or so. They didn't have to worry about a salary cap with them. They didn't have to reinvent themselves. They kept these guys forever, basically, because that's what the rules. And it was easier. I mean, I don't know that it diminishes the Steelers' accomplishments at all, but definitely was easier back then.
Yeah, and that's especially true. I mean, when you look at the NHL, the salary cap has prevented teams from going on an extended runs and keeping everybody. So it's the same thing in the NFL too.
Sure. Is it good for the game? Let me ask: is it good for the game to have like the Patriots winning, 4 times or winning 12 games every year? Is that good? I mean, do we like that, or do we like the parody? Hey, my team is, the Buffalo Bills, and we have a great chance next year. I kind of like the parody of it. I like seeing new champions. I don't necessarily like seeing honestly, I didn't love seeing the Seattle Seahawks back in the Super Bowl. They deserved it. It was fun to watch. It was a great game. But I wasn't like, oh, thank God the Seahawks are back. I want to see them again. I would have, if you would have told me the Cowboys were there, I'd have been really excited to see a new team.
I think the repeat champions and repeat trips to the Super Bowl is good because I think it establishes stars across the board. People this time around were more familiar with Marshawn Lynch and Richard Sherman. I think about the early 90s when the 49ers and Cowboys were winning. Like, that seemed like more fun to me when you had like the big Titans going against each other, right?
Well, you need at least 2 or 3 good teams to make that happen. You need to have. You can't just have the same 2 in each conference. You can't just have the same 2 teams battering the hell out of everybody. And so that's what's going to be interesting next year in the AFC is if anybody can get their crap together to challenge the Patriots.
I don't see it necessarily. I did the power rankings, which were just the people that took them way too seriously are pretty ridiculous. I mean, it was a fun exercise.
I don't believe it.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But putting it together, I was like, wow, who's really that great in the AFC? If I'm kind of discounting the Broncos a little bit for obvious reasons. Steelers, maybe? I don't know. Unless the Colts they're probably they still need that depth to really challenge the Patriots and haven't been close in head-to-head games. I just don't know who beats the Patriots.
Tennessee at 29, you son of a bitch.
I had somebody get naughty for the 9. Yeah, it was crazy. People got a little nutty over it.
for all your talk about parity and a lot of it, you look at the list of Super Bowl champions and Super Bowl teams in the last 15 years, and it's still a lot of the usual suspects, teams that have been known as great franchises. The outliers would be the Arizona Cardinals, arguably the New Orleans Saints, because that came at the kind of beginning of their good run. I still don't think, obviously they're not historically a not great franchise, but otherwise it's packed with Packers and Steelers and Patriots and Giants, and the Ravens have turned themselves into one of those franchises. So you talk about parity, and it does exist, and maybe in slots 4 through 6 in the playoffs, but when you come down to the Super Bowl, it's still most of the usual characters.
Yes and no. I mean, you could make the argument the Seattle Seahawks weren't a great historical franchise before really recently. The Saints, like you brought out there, another good example. But yeah, you're right. The Giants, the Patriots. We could even make the argument the Patriots weren't any good before 2001. I mean, they were once in a while get beat up in the Super Bowl, but they weren't a great franchise. But but the thing about
it seems like the NCAA tournament, right? For as much as it's all about the first weekend and the upsets, the Final Four rolls down, and Kentucky and North Carolina are playing.
Right. It's very true. It's very true. But I think the difference is that there's been enough kind of random champions, I guess you'd call it that. Not random, but you know what I mean, that every team does. I mean, when we put out those 2 early power rankings, there probably are a couple dozen teams that are like,
well, it's like the Ravens.
Wow, we got a shot next year. The 99 Rams won.
Right. The Ravens and 49ers go to the Super Bowl the year the Texans and Falcons are the number 1 seeds. So,
right. It really is. I mean, that's the beauty of the NFL. Is like every team at this moment in time, except for a very few, the Jaguars, Titans. You feel like, hey, if everything bounces right, we can win our division, and then you get in, and who knows what happens. Everybody feels that way right now.
Now,
I don't feel that way in baseball.
All of us feel that way. Even when we're on the outside. What do you think that the teams actually feel about that? Because outside of New England, they're thinking, what the hell do we have to do to sustain anything?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question because, I think teams are more. I mean, fans are fans, but teams are more realistic probably. But again, I mean, if you're, trying to think of a kind of the Detroit Lions. Let's say the Detroit Lions. I've never been there. If you're the Detroit Lions right now, you're probably like, why can't we win a Super Bowl next year? We have, if this happens, and that happens, and that happens, we're right there. If we don't get that pass interference call against Dallas, blah, blah, blah. I think every team, aside from, like I said, maybe 6, 7, 8 teams at the really far bottom can talk themselves into, if not winning a Super Bowl, maybe, we can win 10 games and make the playoffs. Why not?
Yeah. And that's where the parity exists. So
yeah, and you're right. But you're right. Though. I mean, to get to the absolute, and that's what makes the Seahawks being so close to winning 2 in a row. It makes it so impressive because it just doesn't happen that way. It's hard to do this from year to year. You get injury. Like if there are secondary injuries, we've talked about. Earl Thomas had a torn labrum, and Richard Sherman needs Tommy John surgery, which I've never heard about from an NFL position player, not a quarterback. And, their whole secondary is bad. If that happens at week 12, you're not even making the playoffs probably.
No. Through it all, the Patriots, though, do overcome those injuries. They do come over the roster turnover, the salary cap problems to win year after year. And Tom Brady is, 37 years old?
I think he's going to be 38 before next season. Yes, you're correct.
No signs of slowing down. None. Do you think the Patriots get... Do you think the Patriots get back next year? Do you think the Patriots win more titles?
I would say, you know what? It's one of those questions where I would say no just because the odds are saying no against any team. You could, give me any team. Are they going to go to the Super Bowl the next 5 years? I'd probably make money saying no because the odds are against it. But like you said, there's no reason. There's no football reason for me to say no, the Patriots can't make it back. I mean, why not? They're young in a couple key spots, and Brady doesn't look like he's slowing down. But the Brady question's so interesting because the wall's going to hit him. I mean, we saw it. We had no idea Peyton Manning was going to hit the wall this year. Maybe he had. Maybe it was just a quad injury, whatever. We had no idea that 2013 Peyton Manning, greatest season of all time, was going to hit the wall in 2014. It's going to happen for Brady. It is. It happens to everybody. There's really only been one great season from an NFL quarterback at age 40 or later, and that was Warren Moon once with the Minnesota Vikings. Is Tom Brady going to just play, be great into his 41, 42 years old. History says he won't. But I don't know when he's going to hit that wall.
Well, how much of the way that Brady plays, in your opinion, is contingent on age? Obviously, a guy like Russell Wilson is not going to be able to do Russell Wilson things much past 30, but how much of what Brady does can be kind of a hedge against aging?
Yeah, and it's a good point because he obviously doesn't run, and he's a guy
he can run. I mean, I think he's a deceptively kind of good.
Yeah, he can. He's
not a great runner, but
he doesn't rely on
it. It's not Peyton Manning.
Yeah, right. And he doesn't throw the deep ball a lot. That's not a big part of his game anymore, and I don't even know if it ever really was. He's a surgeon basically, and so why can't you do that for a long time? But again, nobody else has. Joe Montana couldn't do that, and Peyton Manning doesn't look like he's going to do it very much longer. And it's for me to like just say that Tom Brady, and as great as Tom Brady is, Tom Brady's going to play elite top 8 quarterback football into 42 years old. It's never happened before. That would be the first time that's ever happened in NFL history. So I don't know that I could bet on that. I don't know how many years he has left.
I still think it depends on that offensive line because I think he said that he doesn't really remember all that many concussions, and it's not like he's ever missed time with concussions. Even during that Super Bowl, I think that the Seahawks sacked him like maybe midway through the third, and I thought, man, for as much as the Seahawks are dominating at this game, they still hadn't gotten to him.
Right. And you know what? I thought about this this week for some reason. Graham Bessinger, who works for Yahoo and does a lot of like long, in-depth interviews, talked to Favre. And the one quote that really stuck with me in that interview was Favre was talking about, man, early in my career, I love getting hit. I would bring it on. Is that all you got? And he said by the time my last year or two, I was like, I just don't want to get hit anymore. And that's I mean, I'm not trying to like, make fun of Brett Favre here, but that's human nature. You're 38. Yeah. You don't want to get hit by a 25-year-old J.J. Watt anymore. It's just not in your not in your life plans anymore. So I wonder if that catches him.
The other side of it too is Tom Brady keeps on talking up his health plan and the exercises he does, and there was a big long feature on it in Sports Illustrated that we talked about it before. So if he is, I was reading a story by Seth Wickersham. I mean, this guy's not drinking after the Super Bowl. That's how serious he is about it, right? Yeah. You can't have a beer after you won your 4th Super Bowl.
He is your quote-unquote gym rat. Yeah, he's not doing the Gronk party plan this week. Yeah.
That's like it's like Nick Saban being upset that the national championship cost him time to go recruiting. If you're going to take a time to celebrate, why not now?
Yeah, he's a different cat. So maybe he just defies everything that's happened in the first 95 years of the NFL.
And looking toward the future, who out there in the AFC is really strikes you as someone ready to take over the crown? I mean, the Colts have not. Yeah. The last 3 times they played, they've gotten blown out by the Patriots.
Yeah, but I think that if all of us were to bet, if Vegas were to say, will Andrew Luck win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years, I think all of us would probably bet
5 years, sure. Right? Next year or 2016, I think completely different story. I don't think the Colts are ready to take it.
No.
The Broncos window is closed. The Ravens are always going to be good. Maybe the Texans figure something out.
The Steelers intrigue me. The Steelers intrigue me because they have the trifecta of Roethlisberger, Bell, and Brown, who are unbelievable. And if they could just add a couple pieces to that defense, maybe new blood at the coordinator, Dick LeBeau's out there. Maybe new blood at the coordinator helps them. I thought the Steelers were very good at the end of the year. Like, very, very, like, you could win a Super Bowl good. And then Le'Veon Bell got hurt. Well, okay, you're not going to win many games without the best running back in the NFL. So I think the Steelers could do it. I really do. I think had Houston just picked Teddy Bridgewater or Derek Carr, they could be in the mix. Honestly, they're so poor at quarterback that it just kills them. It just how did they not draft a quarterback last year? I don't get it. I still don't. That sets them back. I don't. Yeah, but you're right. There's no team that I'm just picking. Maybe the Dolphins. I mean, they have some pieces, but. Yeah, I don't know. I'm reaching. I just
No, sof Rex Ryan in Buffalo. Why don't you bring him?
Oh, God. He's going to give them fits. But, yeah, now with E.J. Manuel quarterback. That's the thing you got to look. You kind of have to look at quarterback, right? You say, well, okay, who are the quarterbacks who are really going to just care? And Luck is one, without question. I don't know if I'm willing to put Ryan Tannehill in that mix yet. I don't know who else I'd put in that mix yet, except Ben, because he's still got the prime years left. But
Andy Dalton's sitting up there just looking lonely, waiting for a dance.
Jay, what do you think? Patriots win another Super Bowl in the next 2 years.
Win another Super Bowl, I don't know. Get to another Super Bowl, yeah, I do. I think that, for reasons that we just talked about, I think that the NFC has a lot more depth down the line from where they are right now. That it's going to be a lot tougher for them to win another Super Bowl. But I have no problem seeing them make it through the AFC, another number one seed, another trip to the Super Bowl.
That's what I will say this. If the question was, will the Patriots get a number one seed in the AFC in the next 2 years, that's absolutely. I think no question. But you just don't know. It's a one game, one and done. It's tough to say, well, they're going to avoid all these landmines every single year.
Well, things can change quickly in the NFL, but the Patriots being dominant has not changed in the last 15 years, so that's just something to consider. Bill Belichick, we didn't spend any time on him. Jay, what do you want to say about Bill?
I want to say that I think that Bill Belichick should be our Lord and Master, that he seems to have figured out life in a way that the rest of us can only dream of, and that, no, seriously, he seems to have mastered the game, and to a degree that it's unbelievable that no one has seemed to catch up to him, but you can't argue with the results. He's figured it out from every angle, from a personnel angle, from a strategic angle. He seems to have it all covered.
I just think with Belichick, I think of a guy like Brandon LaFell, and he's just one example of a billion. But Brandon LaFell, when he was in Carolina, playing with a good quarterback, Cam Newton. I mean, he's maybe not Tom Brady, but he's not incompetent. He's not Josh McCown. Brandon LaFell was just that guy who's like, he's dropping passes. He's just not going to be any good. He's never going to live up to it. He signs with the Patriots, and he just becomes the guy catching the first touchdown in the Super Bowl, and really a big part of what they do. And it's like, he could just do. He could take like Garrett Blunt and off the scrap heap basically when nobody really is that excited about him. Like, how didn't anybody claim LeGarrette Blunt on waivers? Indianapolis couldn't use that guy, but the Patriots got him. Turned him back around.
He got Jonas Gray on the cover of Sports Illustrated and then took him right off.
Yes, like I don't know how this happens. I think that the one thing the Patriots do better than everybody else, and I think I may have talked about this here, but there's many things about Josh McDaniels in Denver that obviously did not work. But the one thing McDaniels said, and it stuck with me, and obviously it's a Patriots thing, and they're still doing it, they change every week. They don't say, here's who we are, here's our identity, and we're going to do this every single week and beat you. The Patriots say, okay, what do you do poorly? We are going to exploit the hell out of that. We are just going to, if you can't stop the run, we're throwing out 6 offensive linemen, and we're going to run 38 times with Jonas Gray. That's what they do. I think it's brilliant, and yet there's so much talk of, like, empty rhetoric of, what's our identity? We don't have a personality. The Patriots' personality changes every week. I think it's brilliant. I think that is just sums up Bill Belichick, his greatness as a coach, really.
How do you even defeat something like that? I mean, do you have a whole set of plays, special Patriot rules that you just don't even show in the preseason and the regular season?
Well, that's what the Dolphins did with the Wildcat that one year. I mean, everybody kind of ripped them too, because week 4 they busted out I think it was week 4, maybe week 5. They busted out the Wildcat with Ronnie Brown, and Ronnie Brown had 6 touchdowns, and they beat the Patriots. And everybody's kind of like, well, why? If you're really trying to win every week, why don't you just every week? But that was it was the one example of, we're going to do something so radical just to beat the Patriots that it's just going to blow everybody's mind. It became a fad for a while. So that's kind of the thing you have to do. You have to be the Dolphins with the Wildcat in whatever year that was.
Did you? I don't know if you listened to Bill Simmons' podcast after the Super Bowl, but he asked the question: who are the 6 starting running backs for the Patriots' 6 Super Bowls?
And that's I didn't get them all right. I got 2 of them.
It was Antoine Smith, Kevin Falk, Lawrence Maroney, LeGarrette Blount, and who was the other 4?
Corey Dillon started one.
Corey Dillon.
He was in the 04 one, I think. But yeah, that's also the point too of, like, this old outdated notion that you got to run the ball to win championships. No, you don't. They beat the Ravens without having one handoff in the second half, and they were just handing off in that Seahawks game just to, I don't know, just to get LeGarrette Blount some work, just to make sure he's not bored, I guess, because they just decided in the fourth quarter, hey, or in the whole game, they decided this is the greatest secondary of all time, and we're going to beat them by throwing the ball 50 times. That's just the game now. And I don't know why, you got to, I guess you need a Tom Brady to trigger that, but, You don't have to run the ball anymore. That's another thing. Bill Belichick was part of that 90 Giants team. And Parcells is such a run-the-ball, tough. Bill Belichick has evolved. If you think about the 90 Giants beating the Bills, it was Otis Anderson controlling the clock for 42 minutes or whatever it was against the Bills' no huddle. He's completely evolved. And he says, you know what, I got Tom Brady. Why would I not throw the ball 50 times in a game?
Do you think the rest of the Patriots ever get sick of how much attention Tom Brady gets?
Yes, of course.
I think they look at their extra zero on their paycheck and the extra hardware on their finger, and they say, I'm good.
You think so?
I mean, at the end of the day, but
here's a guy who got a truck and was like, just give it to that guy.
You know what? I think
I wonder about that in every NFL locker room, though, when there's a dude with a $120 million contract and so many other guys sticking on $600,000 or $700,000 deals that they're going to get jettisoned the first time they blow out a knee. But it's got to be weird.
I guess one piece of that, though, is when you look at Tom Brady, you say, well, this guy, he didn't drink after he won the Super Bowl. He lives football 24/7. By all accounts, he's a great teammate. How could you not respect him?
I'm not saying he's not respected,
I know.
I wonder if there's just someone sitting there saying, "Hey, man, where's my props after the Super Bowl? Like, where's my name in lights?" Right?
Yeah,
but you know that if they come out and say that, if they even hint at that,
of course,
then they'll get all kinds of time to go and be with another team because Belichick will have them right out the door. We saw with Jonas Gray.
And the thing that killed me, and this is probably a little bit of a tangent, and I wrote about this, we talked about this, when the Deflategate stuff was really hot and heavy, that, Belichick basically said, I don't know about these footballs. You got to go ask Tom. That's his deal. It's not mine. And everybody took it and says, oh, my God, Belichick just threw him under the bus, and he's going to cut Brady next year, and this is it. And how stupid are people? I mean, how dumb do you have to be to think that Bill Belichick doesn't have the utmost respect in the world for Tom Brady? Like, those two guys have a sports relationship that literally might surpass every other sports relationship ever. Except maybe
not me and Busbee's.
Yeah, exactly. We're only 4 behind them in Super Bowl rings, man. We're close.
Hey, those two guys have risen from Bill Belichick, when he came to the Patriots, was just the guy, in Parcells shadow, screwed up in Cleveland. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick that nobody cared about. And these guys rose together to be maybe the greatest coach and maybe the greatest quarterback of all time. How would you think that Bill Belichick doesn't think of him almost like a son?
All right, so,
I'm not saying it's inconceivable to think otherwise.
With that in mind, why do we, and by we I mean not just us three, but every idiot on the internet, why do we have a hard time just saying, look, this is it. This is the greatest. Yes, you can make the argument in other directions, but why do we have a problem saying this is the greatest coach-quarterback combo of all time?
I don't know. I don't know. I've thought about this. I've thought about when I was writing about Charles Haley yesterday with this idiotic comment about all their rings are tainted. It doesn't hold up to any factual evidence. It doesn't hold up to any logical evidence. It's just nonsense. But why? And so many people just say, oh, well, they need to deflate the ball. That's so stupid. It's just dumb. But why do we do that? Why can't we just say, wow, Tom Brady is unbelievable. This was such a treat to. I was watching the Super Bowl. I was there, and I was thinking in my head, like, I am watching this guy cement himself as the greatest quarterback ever, probably. And that's awesome. And that's why I watch the NFL. Why would people rather just be like, hey, Spygate? I don't get it. Is that just our culture right now?
That's just contrarian nature, yeah.
And why do we spend 5 days now complaining about the Seahawks call instead of saying, you know what, Malcolm Butler might have made the greatest play in NFL history? He really might have. You can.
And he wasn't even on the field.
He wouldn't. Yeah, he wouldn't have been in a position to make that play had Pete Carroll not called for a pass. That's why.
Well, that's fine, but Pete Carroll's call doesn't matter if Butler doesn't break on that ball unbelievably, and the catch he made. I watched it. I rewatch it. I like to watch a broadcast because I don't see the broadcast obviously when I'm there. I watched a broadcast yesterday just to see what it looked like and whatever. If I get any new thoughts, and my thought was, my God, this guy made the greatest play in NFL history. It was just unbelievable. The catch itself is just phenomenal. The play he made to recognize everything. But yet we've never all we're talking about is Pete Carroll. But that's just the way society is. We're going to talk about the negative, we're going to say, oh my God, Pete Carroll screwed this whole thing up, and Matt Lauer is going to make him feel like he's a politician who cheated on his wife and ask him all these sappy, over-the-top questions. But why not Malcolm Butler making the greatest play ever? That to me, should be the headline of that game.
Frank, what do you really think about the Matt Lauer interview?
I'm not going to get too much into Matt Lauer, but
come on, I teed it up for you there, man.
Trying to make Pete Carroll cry, and he's like talking these deep questions. Like, this guy should just be, we're just shaming Pete Carroll into apologizing to us all. And it's like, well, he made a questionable call. I don't personally think it's the worst call of all time. I understand the logic. Yes, it's not great, but whatever. Bad calls are made all the time. Bill Belichick made a bad call not calling timeout. But Pete Carroll's not shouldn't be up on a witness stand the rest of his life either. I don't get it. And I really do think that, why don't we just look at, wow, Malcolm Butler made the greatest play of all time? Is it better than Tyree or Franco Harris, which didn't happen in a Super Bowl? Yes, you could easily make that argument. It was a phenomenal football play.
Just watching Frank try to navigate an internet comment section with that attitude just brings me kind of a sad sort of delight.
I do enjoy being the contrarian to people sometimes, yes.
I imagine it's like, I imagine the scene of George Washington in the river, and Frank is George Washington, and the icy river is just all the internet commenters. He's just bravely navigating through it all.
Let me bring it back to the question, because there is a question here. I'll ask both of you guys. Why are we concentrating? Why do we just like Deflategate/Spygate and all their rings are tainted versus Bill Belichick being great? Or why do we focus on Pete Carroll screwing up, quote unquote, or Bevel or whatever, versus, wow, Malcolm Butler just made the play of the season?
Carroll's easy. That goes back to the armchair quarterback tradition. Everyone's going to second guess everything that happens, whether it was, if it wasn't that, it would have been something else in the game. Fine. I completely understand that. And I think Carroll deserves all the criticism that he gets, even if he's covering for our pal Darryl Bevel or Russell Wilson, whoever. Well, the other one is tough. I mean, obviously, the Patriots have kind of become the New York Yankees of the NFL, and you talk about, hey, is parity good for the NFL? Whatever. Yeah, but I would say that it's good for the NFL to have a villain too. It was great for baseball to have a villain in A-Rod and the Yankees, and you see the coverage of baseball has fallen off on kind of a national macro level since they've kind of faded into the background. So when you look at the Patriots, they're the bad guy. People like to dislike them.
Not only that, fundamentally, if you acknowledge some team as superior to your own, I mean, you're basically giving up. They're
superior.
I know that. No, and I agree with you. But there's a certain strain of fandom that says, no matter what, I don't care. Patriots never beat Bama. You can hold on to that in your heart of hearts. But if you admit, say, God, these guys are the greatest ever, you're giving up in a way.
You must be from New England, Frank.
Yes,
I got called that this week too. That was painful.
I've been to New England 3 times in my life for 4 days.
You know what would be an awesome post? You need to start collecting emails for every team. You must be from Jacksonville. You must be a Texans fan. You must be a Cardinals fan. And then once you hit 32, we'll post them all.
Again, the best. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. There was a post I did on Olivia Munn and Aaron Rodgers. This is 6 months ago when they first started dating or whatever. And I kind of took shots at Wisconsin, just saying oh yeah, Olivia Munn's just gonna live up in Green Bay with her flannel shirt and eat venison all day. Yeah, right. Okay. And the commenters were you've never even been to Wisconsin. How would you know?
and for first-time listeners or people who aren't unaware, Frank grew up in Wisconsin and lives in Denver.
And I went to the University of, yes,
Wisconsin.
Yeah, I had the same thing with the Falcons noise issue this week.
Oh, yeah.
I live in Atlanta. I was accused of being a Patriots fan and living in Atlanta and being a turncoat Patriots fan. So, yeah, it's the same deal.
I got with Peyton Manning last season, I was the Peyton Manning fan club president all season, saying this is the greatest season ever. He's the greatest quarterback ever. Anybody says anybody else's MVP is a moron. And I got so many you're just a Broncos homer. And I wrote one post about, did Peyton Manning's record, did it count because he threw a lateral and they counted it, even though they shouldn't have, for his against the the Raiders week 17, threw a lateral, should have been a run. Elias honestly should have changed it, and he would have ended with the yardage record. And I got so many like, you just hate Peyton Manning. You just hate the Denver Broncos. Like, well, okay, I guess. I don't know how that changed so quickly.
Well, people don't read everything that you read, Frank. Believe it or not.
It's just funny.
Might be a blow to your ego.
In one post, I go from the biggest Broncos homer ever to the biggest Broncos hater ever.
You need to be more consistent in your positions, Frank. That's all it is to it.
This is a fun podcast. I almost feel a little bit free from the constraints of the usual podcast that we do.
Talk about video games. I want to like end the podcast recording and just talk about video games the rest of the day. I'm good with that plan.
Okay, well, what do you got?
You know, we could talk about like Donkey Kong versus Donkey Kong Jr. Yeah, we could go way, way back.
Favorite non-sports video game?
Robotron.
I enjoy the Grand Theft Auto. I really do.
Well, the Grand Theft Auto. You mean? Are you talking current?
Any.
Yeah, current Grand Theft Auto is without peer. Yes, there's nothing
it's
quite
such
like
guilty pleasure. It's so awful, but it's so great. Yes. What do you got, Kevin?
There's been a lot. Most recently, this is probably 10 or 15 years ago, Gran Torino on PlayStation 2. I was so into that game. I had like all the cars, and I was just like so super involved in it. That's probably not high on a lot of people's list. Nintendo-wise,
Super Mario was pretty good. I know it got played out because everybody had it and everybody beat it, but it's such a classic. Yeah. Everybody knows it. Yeah, if you played that music right now, I'd be like, "Ooh, what?" Like Pavlov's dog, you know?
You know what I liked? I liked the kind of Mega Man style games. They're like the side scrollers. I like those. DuckTales was awesome. I don't know if you ever played DuckTales.
I did not.
That's great.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Was Robotron for like ColecoVision or what?
No. Robotron was an arcade game. So if we're talking about arcade versus home games, yeah, it was. I mean, obviously, you know, I rode my dinosaur back to the arcade back long before you guys were born. but yeah, you would go and they would have Robotron, they'd have Galaga, they'd have Miss Pac-Man, they'd have all of that stuff, and it was, I don't even know how we got the information back then, because there wasn't an internet, obviously, but you would just know that a new game would show up, and then that would be the one that everybody would
Street Fighter 2, like the line was around a block. Mortal Kombat the same. By the way, Kevin, I don't know if you played this video game, but we were talking WWF yesterday, old school WWF. But WWF Superstars, did you ever play this? Where you had to be like a $1 million man? Oh God!
Yeah,
I spent
not as good as the simple NES pro wrestling.
That was good. I was a star man who had like the flip kick.
But you know what they've got now? The WWE now, they have the full battle royal. So you will have 20-some dudes all in the ring all at once, all slinging each other around. So I'm living in a golden age.
I've honestly never liked the gameplay on wrestling games, though. It's never felt natural. It's always felt kind of stunted, kind of wham bam. You know, it was a great boxing game was Ring King for NES.
Yes, it was a great arcade game. I played that in the arcade. I was very proud of myself for winning the title one time Saturday afternoon in the arcade.
Is it still there at the pizza parlor?
It might be. Yes, this is an actual arcade in the mall in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. And yes, I would go and play Ring King, and I was terrible at that game, but I had like that one, like I was in the zone and won like 7 straight fights or something like that. And I still don't know to this day how I did it. I was like Will Ferrell debating in Old School, and like what just happened? Like that was me playing Ring King then.
You remember the boxing game for Atari where it was just like an overhead look of like a head and like 2 arms?
What?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. It was all blocks.
Oh. Yeah, it was terrible.
I do remember ColecoVision came out with football and baseball. It's like play action football, play action baseball, and it was like 3 guys on the screen. Like this is like you know, the first Tecmo Bowl had like 7 guys or something. This had like 3 guys, like a running back, the receiver,
and they all moved in unison. It was like a Tampa Bay offense. You know, they all just moved like all side to side all at once. No imagination.
Nothing at all. Nothing. And I loved it. God, I loved it. It was.
I'll throw out a disappointing sports game: Joe Montana Sports Talk Football.
Yes,
that might be up there. Was like, oh my God! Like there's an announcer announcing the game, and you get it, and you're like, this gameplay is terrible.
It was terrible. It was terrible, and it was like one of those games, and pretty much every game has this. But the play you can't stop. I remember that. So, like it was like if you called the fake punt and then like audibled into like you know the all streaks all go, you could hit it every single time. Like I was like, okay.
advances in games. I mean, when they had announcers, though, I was like, that seemed like to be a real big breakthrough, but it took a while for them to catch up. And even still, it's kind of, once you hear one thing, you hear it 1,000 more times.
Do you yell at Chris Collinsworth like I do when he starts criticizing you? Shut up, man! I know what I'm doing.
He really does get salty with you too. I mean, that's like that hurts, Chris. That hurts, man. I didn't think it was that bad. Jeez.
I still like the Pat Summerall. They should have just like they did with Derek Jeter and
just
Shepard at
him.
the stadium. Yeah, they should have like just recorded every possible last name before he died. Like they would have been prepared for Ha Ha Clinton Dix. How would Pat Summerall have said Ha Ha Clinton Dix?
I don't even want to venture that one.
Such greatness. Yes. The old, by the way, the old Sega Genesis NBA game deserves a shout out too. Like the Lakers versus Celtics and the Bulls versus Blazers and all that. Because that had like, you could change lineups and like, I'm going to sub out BJ Armstrong for Craig Hodges or whatever. It was just mind blowing stuff.
Did you play Tecmo NBA basketball?
You know what? I didn't when it came out. And then my buddy, who was my college roommate, bought an old Nintendo, and I went over to his house. This was years ago, and he had Tecmo NBA basketball. We spent like 2 days playing it, and he would score like 98 points with John Starks, and like Chris Mullen would never miss, and it was the most unrealistic.
That had a play that you couldn't stop, and it was like you just did an outlet pass like down the sideline after inbounding it, and Michael Jordan wasn't licensed, so it was 23 Bulls. And you just took that.
Well, that's like the NBA Live. They had Mitch Richmond on that one, and he was the same deal. Whoever the cover guy was, that dude was always unstoppable if you figured out the right plays to trigger him.
I get Mitch Richmond confused with Tim Hardaway for some reason. They were like the same guy, right?
They were.
Not really, but okay, fine, go with it.
But
it's cool.
Have they both like found controversy in their post NBA lives, or is that just Tim Hardaway?
What is Mitch Richmond even doing now?
I don't know.
We need to get the ball to lie guys on this one.
By the way, so the NHL series, like which one? There was one in college that literally I shouldn't have graduated because I played it so much. It was like the dorm thing to do at Wisconsin was like play, and I think that was NHL '96.
So here's the thing. So last year, Puck Daddy went crazy with the 1994 remembrances, and I said in 2 years I'm going to write a counter opinion that NHL '96 is actually greater than NHL '94, and I'm going to win.
So much more fluid. Yeah,
very fluid.
I agree. It was great.
More teams. Quebec Nordiques in that game were probably the most underrated sports team in a video game of all time. That game, that team was awesome. I love playing with them.
I'd take the Capitals. Oh yeah, I'd take the Capitals. I couldn't take the Ducks because they were so bad, but the Capitals had like Joe Juneau. He was great in that game. I don't think Ovechkin was there yet, but they had a few guys who just were so fast. You could do that move where you like go like left and then shoot it right real quick, and you could beat the goalie every single time. Oh, it's great.
It was good times. Cool. Well, I guess join us next time for more video game talk.
Video game corner at this point.
This will be strictly a video game remembrance podcast for the next 7 months.
I would tune in for that. I would tune in for a straight 1990s, early 90s video game remembrance. We'll talk about the adventures of Bayou Billy on episode 34.
I'm going upstairs right now.
Boy and his blob breakdown, level by level.
I'm going to go tape some NBA Jam highlights right now. Just to add in there.
Let's all get on and play together, and that'll be fun. So cool. Well, thanks for joining us. I think we'll do a podcast next week where we'll just kind of wrap up the 2014 season. Just probably BS like we did in this one. A lot of fun. So join us then. This has been the Shutdown Corner Podcast. Kevin Kaduk with Jay Busbee and Frank Schwab. Have a great weekend. See you next week.